Welcome to Money Matters with me, Gerald Mr. G. Mwandiambira, a show that is there for us to have those day-to-day money conversations we sometimes ignore or simply do not know enough about to tackle. Today we're talking about that question many of us ask. How can one get started on that journey of wealth creation? What are the do's and don'ts? We're chatting with wealth coach and expert Mapalo Makhu from Women in Finance and Eunice Sibiya, wealth coach and expert from Sibiya Coaching. Ladies, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Mr. G.
Good day, good day. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start with the big question. I'll start with you, Eunice. What is wealth creation? We hear people talking about wealth. What is it, in your opinion?
Wealth creation is a fancy word for most people. It's very fancy. But it's something doable, and it's something most of us, if not all of us, should be aspiring to become. It is when you have enough, but not just rich in terms of cash or just your money to play with. Wealth creation is when your financial setup is balanced, and balanced with investments, short, medium, and long term. It's when you have acquired property assets, and you have maybe other types of assets. You could have...
So is wealth things, Mapalo? Is it necessarily assets? Because already we're talking assets. Because some people define wealth completely different. In your opinion, do you agree with Eunice that it's assets? Is there more to it? I mean, children are wealth.
They take a lot of money. That's what. I have a 4-year-old, and trust me, they take a lot of money. But I think exactly what she said, you know, it's assets. It's saying things that are income producing, things that are interest producing, dividend giving, things that, you know, if you buy it today, it will be worth more later than things that, you know, sometimes we buy shoes or we buy handbags. They're not going to be worth more later. So things that will be much more worth later than when you had bought them first.
So Eunice, do people need to be coached or taught to create wealth? What are the kinds of people who are out there who create wealth?
People do need to be taught. People do need to be coached. Because let me tell you, if that wasn't the case, we all would be wealthy. And the reason why the majority of us are over-indebted, the majority of us are behind with our payments, the majority of us are living from hand to mouth, it's because we need the coaching. We lack the coaching, we lack the knowledge. So when you conduct financial management coaching, financial coaching, and what Mapalo also does, in those spaces, it is imparting and sharing the knowledge around financial management and holding the hand. So we do need. There are people that are very wise in terms of financial matters. They're not geniuses in other spaces, but they just have the knack of financial management. And let me tell you, it comes with discipline. It comes with who you are, your behavior. And your behavior is driven by your emotions. So there's a whole lot of emotional involvement in financial management.
So you're talking emotions. Now, Mapalo, woman in finance.
Yes.
And does that mean you specialize in talking wealth for women? Do women have a different wiring emotionally when it comes to wealth creation? Are women better at creating wealth?
I think they are. And I think women's needs are so different from men's. And for me, that's why I saw it fit to start Women and Finance, to talk to the women and say, you know what, you deal with money completely differently from your male counterparts, right? So for example, I'll give you an example with my own situation. I have a 4-year-old son, and sometimes if I think of doing my nails or my hair or whatever the case is, if he needs something else, I would put his needs before mine. That's a woman. And men maybe will think, yeah, he does need it. We'll cover it eventually, right? So for women, our needs are so different that for me, the coaching that I do with women, because like Eunice mentioned, we are very emotional beings, and the way we think about money and the way we feel about money directs the steps and the actions we take when we're dealing with our money.
So basically our past drives our future and current money behavior. So let's take a step back, Eunice. In terms of getting started, so for our viewers who are mainly novices in terms of money management, how does one get started? So we've said, okay, they want this thing called wealth. Where do we start? Because you're talking emotions, you're talking psychology. Where do we start?
Yes.
We start with knowing self. Knowing myself. Before, if I have a family, I know my 4-year-old and my husband and the whole rest of the family, of the household. I need to know me. So you mentioned background. I need to understand my background and the errors that happened and what happened, how many nights I went to bed without food and all of those things. That baggage, that emotional baggage that I'm carrying, what is it doing to me today? Am I still living in the past, or am I on the extreme of making up for the past? Because we need to let go of the past, particularly the unpleasant past.
Okay.
But the most of us, we are still living or trying to make up for things that didn't happen in the past, and we're not even aware because we don't know what feeds our psychology and our emotions. So the best place to start is understanding self. Where do you come from? Who are you? What happened to you? Speak about those things, identify what happened and you need to take lessons from, identify the good behaviors and habits that you need to carry forward, and identify the riff-raff that you need to get rid of and throw away.
Now,
that's one. Two, then you start acquiring the knowledge of the how-to. If you're employed or you have an income stream from somewhere, and most of us unfortunately only have one income, which is the salary because we're employed, how best do you work with that? The best is to have two. So that's where the knowledge would come from. And depending on which level of your life and economy and success and academic achievements you sit at, there are different engagements that you need to be exposed to. And again, that's where the coaching comes in.
Now, Mapalo, Eunice has touched on self-knowledge and knowledge of information in terms of money and wealth creation. You don't come for free, because clearly talking to you, having that conversation, it might mean that I need to invest in myself to talk to a wealth coach or financial planner. What kind of services would you offer in terms of someone who says, I'm interested in this wealth creation? How can I get started, and what will it cost me? Because unfortunately, I think people associate money creation that they think it's free. And I suppose we need to debunk that myth that in order to get ahead, you need to talk to someone who knows a bit more than you. So how do you get started?
You know, sometimes I do get asked, but what does it cost to see you when I'm indebted? I say, well, you will not value the service of what I give if it just comes for free. You got yourself in debt, and there's a reason, and there's a host of other reasons. You know, she mentioned emotional background, your environment, that sort of thing. So you need to realize that it's an investment like any other investment that you will make. Going to school, getting a degree is an investment. You don't ask the university, oh goodness, why am I paying you so much, you know? Because what you're going to get, the value that you're going to get there is going to put you in good state for life, right? So for me, in the coaching sessions, I start with exactly that, you know, what Eunice has mentioned, with why, you know, why do you do the things you do? And often we don't realize just how our background shapes even our financial decisions, you know. And I spoke to a psychologist one time, and she says people operate from 2 points, from external locus of control and internal locus of control. Right? External locus of control, we see it all the time on social media. We are flossing, you know. People must see that I've achieved. People must see that I look good. Hair done, nails done, shoes on point all the time. And you get the respect of your peers. You get the respect of everyone on social media, people you don't even know, right? And that's what feeds you. On the other hand, the internal locus of control say, I know I'm worthy. Either way, with all of these things, with them or not, I know I'm worthy, right? So you start there, because if we're going to go straight into, you know, eliminate debt, get your unit trust exchange traded fund, you probably are not talking to why they started getting into debt in the first place. So that's where you should, and that's why I love coaching so much, because you get to understand why the person does what they do.
So already we're learning. We've got the internal locus, location,
Yes.
shy Latin right there,
Right
you know.
there.
Internal locus, external locus.
yes.
So these are things we need to know. In summary, before we start talking your personal stories in the next segment, how do black people deal and associate with money? In a quick summary before we delve into it in the next segment, start with Mapalo and then Eunice.
Yeah. Exactly that, you know, the internal locus of control. People say, I know I'm worth it. I'll give you an example. My sister, she's the most astute and disciplined person. Really is. And we don't come from a rich background, but she doesn't compensate for not having come from a rich background. She earns well, but she keeps her expenses low. She's very, very disciplined. On the other hand, you might have someone who's grown up in the same situation and they earn less than my sister, but man, they are splurging, they are, I mean, they are balling.
And you, Eunice, what have you encountered in some of your encounters with people and money?
More or less the same. We view money from a skewed background, from a very skewed angle. Often you hear people associating the current situation of finances with our past, poverty and the old regime. I'm like, bon, past tense, ne? Can we leave past tense in the past? Where are we today and what have we got in front of us? Let's make use of the platforms. Knowledge is out there. But we need to, like I said, leave baggage in the past. So we think rich is for certain people, certain cultures, certain races. And those people that have now been exposed to some kind of money, BEE came in, people were promoted, people were then set in different income brackets and they were moneyed. You saw the shift from township to suburbs and the cars we drive, the houses we live in. There was a serious movement, there was a serious shift. That shift has brought in serious cost for some people because then there weren't proper calculations of where we're going. But we think not even wealth. Most people don't talk about wealth. We talk about being rich. And we think being rich is when you can externally demonstrate what you have. That car that most of us are driving, it ain't ours yet. We're still paying it off.
So it belongs to the bank.
Yes, but because it says something about me, it's a big thing. Then I must have the clothing and the attire and the look that matches the car. And me and the car must come from a house that matches all of Bon. It is layered.
So it's layered. But then I've met somebody who once said to me that if I go back at Christmas to the village, I can't take my house. But I can take my car. So I'm not interested in a fancy house. I'd rather have a fancy car. Let's take it a bit back. Mapalo, is there such a thing as I earn too little to create wealth?
There's no such thing. There's no such thing. And you know what? Let's not discount people who are really, really in dire situations. I mean, we know South Africa has such
some challenges,
huge challenges. But I mean, for people watching this TV, you know, you do have means to create wealth. I mean, when I started working, I earned peanuts, right? But I saved 350 Rand per month religiously.
So you started off with 350 Rand. Let's hold that thought. Join us after the break as we continue our conversations on wealth creation and start touching on the stories of these phenomenal ladies. See you soon. Welcome back to Money Talks with me, Gerald, Mr. G. Mwandiambira. We're talking wealth creation. And in studio with me, we've still got Eunice Sibiya, who's a wealth coach and expert from Sibiya Coaching, and Mapalo Makhu from Women in Finance. Women and Finance.
And Finance.
Women and Finance. And we've been exploring and discussing the theory of what wealth is and how it's created. But sometimes let's take it back home. You've got a story to tell. Mapalo, share with some of our viewers your wealth story and some of the decisions you took, which many people will be gobsmacked about.
Yes. So my wealth story, I mean, I teach about money and, you know, get out of debt, start investing, start saving, that sort of thing. And I think when, you know, as a young adult, you get married, you have kids, and, you know, it's like your life's supposed to happen in a certain way, you know, move to that house, get a bigger car, you know. But I realized that we will never create the kind of wealth that I know I personally want for my family if we keep on doing the same things that everybody else is doing, right? So me and my husband took a decision. We're going to move back home, rent out our property, and we had an existing property already.
So you left the leafy green suburbs and you went back
Yes,
home.
Went back to the hood.
All to save money and to create wealth.
Yes.
How do you create wealth? By moving away from the fancy life to the more simple life.
So what we did, we had two existing bonds, right? So it meant that we were able to pay more because we were renting them out. So these two properties, we had people living in them, and we were still contributing what we were meant to be contributing had we stayed in those properties.
Wow.
Okay, so we made sure that we do that, which cut down the years that we owe the bank. Because remember, effectively, if you have a bond, you are the property. Yeah, you're bond. You're the yes. The property still belongs to the bank, right? So we made sure that we're speeding up the process to make sure that we actually own these properties. And I mean, a host of other things, very interesting things happened. So we eat out a lot, and because we're in the hood, that got cut down. So we found massive savings in just moving back. We did it for a year, but man, that year was worth it.
Wow, Mapalo. So essentially, you're living what you preach. You're practicing what you preach, and that's quite powerful for someone who's in coaching. Eunice, your story is also quite interesting. You were big job, big bank, consumer education, and you've left it all to start your own wealth creation journey. What's your story?
My story is I had spent enough time in corporate. I have learned a lot, been exposed to a lot. And I thought, well, being a chatterbox, can I leave the confined premises, which I respect and appreciated a lot. And I wanted to be in my own space, because in my own space, I then realized that I needed to speak about much more that is needed to the consumer than just financial management. We spoke about the behavior that leads and the emotions that leads to us, the manner in which we deal with our finances. So I do speak to the emotion side of things. I do coaching on emotions and finances, emotions and relationships. I coach on career choices for the youngsters, and I do couple coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. So I needed to be on the other side of the road so that I can expand my talking platform.
Okay, so you enjoy education.
Yes.
Is enough being done in consumer and financial education in South Africa? Are the youth being empowered? Where's the biggest gap? Where should we be talking?
There will forever be a need because we are lagging behind from other countries in terms of information, their absorption and the uptake of it and the practice of it. So for the longest time to come, we will need to be informed. And my two focus areas are the youth. I enjoy talking to the youth because there it's preparatory. We inform and we educate so that they embark on the right side of the road, make the right decisions, make the right choices, and never repeat the mistakes that we made because we started on a blank. On the other side, with the adults who are the credit active consumers, it's remedial.
It's remedial. So you're fixing the problem. So for a lot of us who've already started the journey, we've made the mistakes.
Yeah. We
So
are living the
Mapalo,
mistakes.
what are the common mistakes which you encounter in terms of your coaching, which you can share with the viewers that they must read them as warning signs before it gets too bad?
Yeah. You know what, Mr. G, there's one thing. When banks tell you, you qualify. People take it as truth, and it's like, this
Good
is
news.
It's good news, right?
It's an envelope.
But people never do an affordability test for themselves.
Okay.
Right? So we are living very, very inflated lifestyles based on the fact that, I qualified for this. You qualified for a loan. Do you really need a loan? You qualified for a bond for 2 million. Do you really need a 2 million rent house? Can you go for 1.5? Make sure you still have room. I think for me, in my coaching sessions, I always say, keep your life as simple as possible. That's how you really create wealth. Keep your life as simple as possible. Have room to make decisions.